Yo, what's good? I go by King Leo Picasso. Some of y'all may know me as SC, but the seasons change, so do we. So, I'm gonna get right into it. I'm starting here with Spider-Man. One of the first things that I can remember is back in the days on Saturday mornings waking up watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and that cartoon just drug me in as a kid. So, as you can see, me growing up, hey man, I've always been a Spider-Man fan from when I was a kid, and ironically, without me knowing, my son would even become a Spider-Man fan off top. So, you know what I mean? It's just destiny. So, one of the things that I love about Spider-Man is that he's always had great villains. He's always been one of those comic book characters that just drug me in. They changed his suits. They would do so many different things with Spider-Man. His villains are just next level to me. So, I always give him props for that. But as the years went on, as I became a teenager and got older and older, Spider-Man became cooler. And on top of that, Spider-Man now has Miles Morales, which, gives my son an opportunity to grow up with somebody a Spider-Man that looks like him, which is incredible. But as we keep going through it and, as time went on, I grew up and I got a chance to play Spider-Man games. So I'm going to go all the way back and start with the Atari Spider-Man game. Now, as a kid, I've played this game maybe once or twice, I probably played it more this time now around as I'm doing this playthrough than I did then. But, back in the day, my aunt had the Atari. I would have to go over her house to watch it or play it, And then, it was, she would pull it out every blue moon and then there was an Atari. But she didn't have the Spider-Man game. I believed I probably was too tall, Thomas. One of my older big homies, But back in the day, I remember playing Spider-Man, and I remember playing this Atari game, and it was cool for what it was. It was just kind of a tower climber. You climb and do your thing, and then get to the top, almost like Donkey Kong. But one of my biggest memories of playing Spider-Man had to be this game here, this Spider-Man video game. In the arcades. Now, this game right here was incredible for its time. We talking 1991. I'm 11 years old. I walk into the arcade. The music was loud. It's a 4-player machine. My first time seeing it, I'm mesmerized, right? I'm looking like, what the fuck is this? So, upon that, I start playing the game. I'm going through the levels, As you could tell, this game was hella unfair as a kid, but I didn't care. I pumped mad quarters into this game. But, as you can see, this game had an HP like life's kind of system where with numbers, and that was kind of different for me. I always wondered why I had those numbers, but not knowing that every time you get punched in the face by somebody or any of the villains, you lose half of your time. The game is constantly ticking down on time. You're like running out of time, and if you get hit, you lose more time even faster, which this game was a quarter eater, but at the end of the day, what can you do about it? The game was cool, like the way that where the characters grew, the stages are changing, and then like it was just so much going on when it gets bigger and then it gets smaller and you go through the stages. Now, as you can see through this playthrough, this is probably one of the longest playthroughs you'll see through this whole video thing, because I'm gonna go through every one of the Spider-Man games in a side-scrolling kind of sense up until maybe right before the N64 version. I will bounce back to those because I know some of y'all are going to be like, yo, what about the PlayStation version? What about the other versions? But at the end of the day, we're going to start with the side scrollers. So, as I played these games and I went through them, I used to love this game in the arcade, man, as I say. And I used to spend hours just playing this game. It was at the bowling alley on, Crenshaw. I'm from LA, so, It was at the bowling alley on Crenshaw and, what is that? Crenshaw and Rodeo. They had a bowling alley right there, and I used to play this game all the time. It was just so loud, and I used to play it and play it and play it. I never beat it until, I got older, and then, you get your workarounds and you do your thing. But I used to love this game, and I still do. I still have the same affinity for this game. It was one of the greatest. But then after that came out, when it came to the home consoles, it took a minute for it to come back. But Sega did such a great job with the licensing on the game. When they had the license, their music, the sound, everything that you can do when you get into playing a Spider-Man game, and like the sound was always important to me. I'm a music head, obviously. Most of y'all know I rap, so you look at it and then you think like, oh my god, you hear the music when you're playing it. Sega always had kind of a good sound system. Them and Super Nintendo did as well, but when it came to these Spider-Man games, it was awesome. Some of these games used to be real brutal, like the Genesis version of Spider-Man. this game was absolutely brutal. Like, playing through the game, it opened up. They tried to get it as close as they could to the arcade version, but not quite on consoles. One of the funniest things I love about this, the first person you actually sock out as a cop. But that's neither here nor there. You know, you had your criminals going around. These games were absolutely, like, this game right here specifically, I remember spending hours and hours and hours on. It was very hard. I still can't remember beating this game, and I actually think through this playthrough was probably the furthest I've gotten. I've never remember getting this far and playing this game at all. But just the way that it cinematically told the story, from the way that you stand there and you're watching it, it actually told a really good story. And they were really, I don't know what Sega was on, but they were really just into telling a great story. Now, here we go with these enemies right here. Just think about it. Like, look how brutal this is. Like, dudes are shooting. You trying to sit here and get to the next part, and you got to be very careful about. Yeah, look how brutal some of these characters are. The dogs are coming around and attacking. I spent hours like this. Like I say, this might have been the longest I've ever gotten through. It was 91 was so long ago. We in 2020 right now, trying to figure it out and trying to remember how hard these games were. Look at that, man. Enemies just keep going. Like, they just never let up on you at all. And so it's such and so forth. I love this part, when you gotta press continue and you're thinking about it, and you know what I'm saying, like, you want to continue, yes or no, and then you just sock the cop and jump out. But anyway, yeah, you know, as you move through these levels, I don't know what it was about Spider-Man games in any sense of the form, or just games back in the day of them thinking about what to put in games and the type of enemies, but there was just an infinite amount of rats in every one of these Spider-Man games. But like I say, back to this Genesis version, this game was so brutal and trying to figure out and trying not to get hit. Even as I tried to remember playing through it and trying to get past certain things, I remember the commercials for these games, and you know, it took a while to relearn every one of how to do it. You're talking about a game with just 3 buttons. As you progress more and more in these games, Spider-Man started to move around a little different. You know, like, one of the biggest things in every one of the Spider-Man games was the swinging motion and using his web to get around. I used to love that. That's one of the fun things about Spider-Man games, is how you get around the city. That's what makes that new PS4 version so incredible. But like I said, you keep going through, there's nothing but rats. You'll always find rats, and you'll see as you keep watching these playthroughs, as the licenses change, one of the things that they never got rid of was rats. I don't understand why, but that's what it was, and it is what it is. But you know, this game right here, this Genesis game was super fun. I remember playing it for hours upon hours. I never really got very far. I think I may have gotten to the stage after this one, but you know, this is one of the fun things in the game, is where you actually one of the first like games to actually have an in-game camera, you know what I mean, to take selfies or whatever as we call them now. But you know what I mean, you know, Peter Parker's a photographer. That's what his job trade was. So, you know, he's trying to take pictures of certain things. For the sake of this playthrough, I didn't keep doing it over and over again. I just showed you guys once. But, you know, as I kept going through the gameplay, I played through it and watched a lot of the story and was really amazed just being able to play it again. But this game was, like I say, is just so unfair with the way is how fast some of these enemies would move and how many times you would have to play some of these stages over. You only got like one continue out of it, like on this one specifically. So just imagine like me back in the day as a kid, 11-year-old, like, oh my God, how am I supposed to play this with one continue trying to get far? This is why a lot of games went unbeaten in this era, was because you only get a certain amount of continues. I know plenty of gamers that didn't that's why some of these games didn't get beaten in this era, because I remember a lot of people, you know, you only had 3 continues. This game only had 1. Sega was a lot more brutal with their continue system than Nintendo was. So, you know, this part right here, man, I just can't fathom why it was so hard just to get rid of this ape, and then afterwards I had to go all the way back down to the stage, find the boss, which is Sandman. And I remember just looking at the commercial, I would always see Sandman in the commercial, but I could never get to him. How I got to him on this playthrough, I don't know. I guess I just was really like just trying to concentrate and get as far as I could this time playing around, and I almost made it back. Made mistakes along the way right here, trying to where I should have been in the tree. And I missed it, and I didn't even get the chance to finish the game. That was it. I remember seeing the commercial, you had to get back to the fire hydrant. That's the only reason I remember, is from the damn commercial back in the day. And I was trying to get back, almost made it, but as you can see, I failed. So this is when things start getting a little weird with Spider-Man, and that's when LJN took the license from Sega. Now, me as growing up, I was a Nintendo kid. I wasn't really a Sega kid like that. The only reason that I had the Sega version was because I used to go play at my neighbor's house. But then again, my sister's boyfriend bought me a Sega. But then we get into the Nintendo thing. As you can see, there was an immediate drop in production value on this game. I can't tell you how many times just playing this game that I was just disappointed as a kid. This game made me like just not want to play it as a kid, even though I used to love it and try to play it, but I never got very far in this game at all. And this is probably another one of those instances in me playing this game that I probably got the furthest probably playing right now. Like, you're talking about like not wanting to play past like the first or second stage. Like, I don't even remember beating Electrode back in the day as a kid. Like, I think I got here and just couldn't figure shit out and was just like, you know what, like I'm good. Like, just trying to follow him around the stage and get him to follow you. It's almost like playing Mario Brothers when you have to turn your back on the ghost to get them to follow you, and that, yeah, it pissed me off. Here we go with these rats again, just like, you already know, Takashi Snitch 9. Y'all already know, man, like, but these rats, every time you turn around, it was just garbage. Here goes another one of LJN's, then we go into another one of LJN's, like, failures, which was just like Spider-Man and the X-Men. Now, we went to Super Nintendo at this point, and I did have the Super Nintendo. Like I said, I was a Super Nintendo head. The music in this game is incredible, which made you want to play it over and over again. But as you get ready to play it up, you know, when I first fired up, I remember how excited I was playing this game and got my parents to buy it for me. And then I start playing it. I'm like, oh shit, we got Spider-Man and the X-Men. It's going down. Then you start playing the game, and then you start wondering why I didn't like LJN as the license holder for these games. But you know what? Like, it started off real cool. Then you start playing the game, and then you understand why. So, without further ado, just watch it. You get it, you turn it on. The music, like I say, the music was great. A lot of early Super Nintendo games had some really good, cool music. But then you start playing the game, and then, you know, you start going on, and you're wondering why. Like, okay, well, the swinging is not as good as the Genesis version. You're doing stuff, you know, the enemies are still brutal. But then I'm collecting bombs in the first stage. Okay, I'm going to collect these bombs. I'm going to look around, and I'm sitting here trying to collect bombs everywhere. But now I'm like, all right, wait a minute. For the whole stage, this is the main thing that I'm doing is collecting bombs. Where's the enemies at? Who am I fighting? I don't see any familiar faces, nothing. I'm fighting robots and getting killed. These enemies were hella brutal. They're still hella brutal as I play through. But then you run through the stage, and then you finally get to the end of it. Finally collect all of these bombs. Now you see who your enemy is, Dr. Arcade, and then the X-Men are sitting there. You know, some of you probably are too young to remember some of these suits that the X-Men are wearing. But yeah, you had Spider-Man, you had Gambit, you had Storm, you had Cyclops, and of course, one of the greatest, Wolverine. Then, for the sake of this playthrough, I'm still using Spider-Man. Yeah, another stage full of enemies that have nothing to do with the Spider-Man lore or any of the X-Men lore. So it's kind of like, and then you still kind of playing this whole brutal thing. So at the end of it, I kept playing through it, trying it again. I tried it again and over again. I failed. I'm not gonna lie, like, I just got tired of playing the game. These enemies were making me upset, and you know, I tried it again, tried to see how far I can get, and it just didn't work out. So, you know, this playthrough was kind of a bust, but at the end of the day, it was good to go back and hear the music. But when it came down to just the stage and the overall design of whatever they were trying to do, I don't know what LJN had in their mind when they created this game. But for the sake of it, I'll go through. We'll see the Queen of Wakanda. A lot of y'all that don't know it, so hopefully I'm not ruining anything for you, but the comic book fans that I know that are probably watching this, you know who the Queen of Wakanda is. Yeah, it didn't work out for Danae in that other movie afterwards in Black Panther for what's to come, but I'm pretty sure at some point if they do a trilogy or whatever, we'll see the Queen of Wakanda, Storm. You know what I mean? Storm is one of the most awesome X-Men ever, but at the end of it, you're wondering why Storm is doing a water level when she controls the weather. This should have been a no-brainer for her, but LJN decided to make it super extra out. So yeah, I'm done. So yeah, after the debacle with that game, Spider-Man seemed to change hands again, but this time it was for the better. Now, we're still on Super Nintendo, but as you can see, one of the best gaming companies at the time. You might remember them from some games like Mortal Kombat. Talking about Acclaim. They used to handle all the Mortal Kombat properties back in the day, but at this time, they came with Spider-Man Maximum Carnage. You got Spider-Man, you got Venom, chasing down Carnage. The first cartridge that was like different from every other cartridge on the Super Nintendo that had a different color. They had the red cartridge, which was like sacred. You get that red cartridge, everybody that got it, everybody that played it knew what Maximum Carnage was about. All my old heads stand up, because y'all remember Blockbuster standing in there trying to see if you can get the game when it first came out. Go in there and snatch that up on that Friday night after school, you know what I mean? Yeah, Maximum Carnage, we was like lit for it. Now, when I remember playing back through this game, I remember playing it for hours, and it took me hours upon hours upon hours to play the game, just like some of the other ones. But this one I kind of stuck with because I really wanted to beat. But you got to remember, during that time, afterwards playing these games, and then you only get like 2 days over the weekend to play it, maybe 3, and then you got to take it back. So one of those times, you see these games, you go through it, they had great enemies, as you can see from the opening intro I showed you. You saw Morpheus, you saw Cloak and Dagger from the TV show. Yeah, that Cloak and Dagger. You see these people in this game. As you can see, it looks a lot different. Some of the enemies came up. The problem I had with it was, a lot of these side scrollers had that same issue with just certain characters that just pop up, and then, you know what I mean, like just regular dudes came in, the overabundance of the same character that you see pop up just with different names. But what can you do? Side scroller blues. But this game was awesome though. The movements, the way Spider-Man can get around, the swinging was dope. You know what I mean? Like it was awesome, like for its time, and the music was really good too on this game. And it was kind of like Spider-Man versus. It reminds me of Final Fight, if I had to say anything, or if I had to go through it, trying to climb up on buildings, and then you got the characters that just pop in and you have to do it. Now these two right here, oh my god, it's just like I couldn't believe how strong they were. Even today, still playing the game, these two were strong as hell. I remember countless times losing and having to start over. You only get a certain amount of continues again. Kind of reminds me of Bianca Belair hitting you with the hair though, right? You know what I mean? The EST of NXT. Yeah, that Bianca Belair. Shout outs though. But at the end of the day, you know what? Women are strong as shit. So, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it was a dope kind of fight. And we go on, and it is what it is. So let's go on to the next level, which is the climbing stage. This stage used to give me the blues. Trying to climb up to the top of this thing took forever. For the sake of it, I'm not going to show you how many times I fell to the bottom trying to learn how to relearn how to play this part. It only looks like I'm an expert just because it's the way it's edited, and I was like, okay, I had learned it, and I had gotten killed so many times trying to do it, playing through the game so many times. I think I played through this game maybe like 4 times by the time I finished this playthrough. But yeah, just trying to relearn it, like, yeah, it was brutal just trying to climb to the top of this thing, like, to get to the top. Like, yo, they wanted to give you some climbing aesthetics, let you learn how to use the climbing. Then here comes one of the Spider-Man favorites, Doppelganger. Some of you may not know Doppelganger, but Doppelganger was one of Spider-Man's best enemies. He was pretty cool. There I go again, climbing to the top, just trying to make my way through the stage. Get up to the top. Doppelganger tries it again. I'm trying to get out the way, and I finally make it to the top. There we go. Yeah, I was pissed off after that playthrough, man. I had lost so much health trying to get up there. But then when we get up there, you get a big surprise. The surprise was, here we go, Doppelganger, of course. So now you got to fight Doppelganger. You know what I mean? You get up there. He's strong as hell. You know what I mean? The lightning bolts she was getting hit by, yeah, she did it. It's over. You back down there. Meanwhile, look at this. Yeah, now we get to see a game with a lot of Spider-Man like characters coming through. Carnage. They go JJ. JJ is always awesome in everything, even though he hated Spider-Man. But Carnage was incredible trying to get ready to play him. Yeah, and then you end up back in the alley, back downstairs with Tom and whoever the rest of these dudes are that you're fighting. Hey, look, they give you an abundance of the girls to fight. You know what I mean? They're gonna smack you around with their hair if you don't fight them right. At this point, I kind of caught on how to move around with them, but I was still kind of annoyed. yeah, at the same time, because it's like, yo, I'm doing this again, gotta be careful, getting through it, doing my stuff. So yeah, there's the end of that. Yeah. And then we come through with this dude right here. I'm thinking, yeah, all right, I can avoid his attacks. No, let's try not. Here comes Cloak and Dagger. Y'all might remember them recently from DC's, Marvel's TV show on ABC. Yeah, it's that, Cloak and Dagger. That's how far back they go. They're not new. They've been around for a while. They've been around for a minute. They've always been in Marvel's comic book lore and a part of Spider-Man's world. It was pretty cool to see them in the game back in the day, you know. And this might be an instance of one of those games where I got pretty far, but I think I did get as far as I did get. I do remember playing this game so much to where I was able to get to Venom and all of that and unlock him and be able to play him. But as you can see, again, Doppelganger, Shriek, putting in work, coming in. Oh God, he just looks so pissed off. Carnage in New York. There goes your boy Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock, man. But yeah, so at this point, you know, I'm still playing through it. For the sake of it, I've switched it up a little bit, and I use Venom this time around going into that next stage, just so y'all can see how dope he pretty much was. Venom was such an awesome character, especially coming to the point to where during that time, you get older, anti-heroes became way more popular back then. You saw a lot of anti-heroes start popping up. Even a lot of other villains started getting their own comics, talking about Dr. Doom and different people like that. But for the sake of this, Venom was awesome back then. We couldn't wait for it. You know, he kind of broke away from Spider-Man, was able to establish himself as just being a different character, and you start really getting into the psyche of Venom. So, you know, right now what we're gonna do is, though, I'm gonna pause it right here. Next time y'all come back and I put one of these videos up, you'll see more. We'll start from where it left off. I do have quite a few more Spider-Man games to go through from this era, but we're gonna put a pin in it right here, and I hope y'all enjoyed this first video, man. I'll be back soon. King Leo Picasso, not your legends. Y'all know what it is. Holla.